Welcome to Moon Mind Temple. In this video, you're about to experience something truly special, an invitation to the most restful sleep your soul has known in a long time. If your thoughts feel like a storm that won't calm down, if tension coils in your chest like a knot that won't loosen, if you're longing for stillness but can't seem to reach it, then stay with me. What unfolds over the next 3 hours may gently reshape your night and your heart. Tonight, I'll be sharing 5 timeless Zen stories passed through generations, not to entertain the mind, but to awaken something deeper. These aren't techniques you'll forget by morning, or breathing tricks that fade when stress returns. They are quiet spiritual keys that can unlock peace from within. Here at Moon Mind Temple, healing is found in the silence between words, in the pause between thoughts, in the sacred space of simply being. You've probably tried many things to quiet your mind. Apps, meditations, counting sheep. But somehow, the same anxious voice keeps playing its familiar tune. Tonight is different. If it feels right, share where you're joining from in the comments. Are you resting beneath the stars in Nairobi? Listening during a night shift in Toronto? Drifting off beneath moonlight in Seoul? There's something sacred about knowing that across the world right now, hearts like yours are listening, breathing, and letting go together. So, get comfortable. Let your body grow heavy. Dim the lights. Pull that blanket close. You don't need to know anything about Buddhism. You don't need to sit in any special position. All you need to do is listen. Each word has been chosen with care, crafted to ease your nervous system into peace. As the Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Tonight, we begin with a story of a man named Kenzo, a merchant driven by success, yet hunted by worry. And how a single, quiet moment changed his life. So let your breathing soften. Let your body melt into rest. Because your healing begins now. The art of stopping. There was once a merchant named Kenzo, a man known for his relentless drive. His mind moved faster than the horses that pulled his cart through winding mountain roads. Always planning. Always calculating. Always preparing for a future that never seemed to arrive. Every morning before the sun rose, Kenzo packed his cart with silks and spices. Yet even as he walked through the present, his thoughts raced ahead toward deadlines, markets, delays that hadn't yet happened but already weighed on his shoulders. Through years of vigilance and ambition, he built a thriving trade. He could quote prices in 5 provinces, never missed a delivery, and was praised as a model of success. But success, as it often does, demanded a price. His stomach burned with anxiety. His hands trembled from too much tea. And his sleep was broken and shallow. Filled with half-formed dreams of debts and disappointments. In the crowded markets, whispers floated between stalls. Whispers of a mountain temple. Of monks who had discovered something mysterious, something called peace. They said these monks could sit in stillness for hours, face storms with calm, and sleep with the purity of children untouched by fear. Kenzo dismissed the rumors. To him, peace was a fantasy. A privilege for those who had nothing to lose. Life, he believed, was a battlefield. And stillness was surrender. But over time, doubt crept in. His chest tightened more each week. His heart would race from the smallest mistake. And sometimes, in the still moments between villages, when only the creaking of his wheels and the breath of his horse kept him company, he felt a question rising in him like smoke. What if they know something I don't? One autumn morning, burdened by a weariness even wealth couldn't cure, Kenzo made an unexpected choice. He turned off the familiar road and took the narrow mountain pass toward the rumored temple. Not to believe it. Not to find peace. But to prove, once and for all, that it didn't exist. The trail wound higher than he expected. Past golden maples that whispered in the wind. Past streams that hummed ancient lullabies over smooth stones. But Kenzo barely noticed. His thoughts galloped ahead, still caught in the loops of worry, rehearsing excuses, counting losses, fearing delays. The anxious radio in his head played on, uninterrupted. After hours of climbing, just as he was about to turn back in frustration, the forest suddenly opened into a clearing, and Kenzo stopped breathing for a moment. Before him lay a pond so still it seemed unreal. The surface like glass, untouched, perfect, silent. The water was so clear, every pebble at the bottom seemed illuminated. Leaves rested gently like messages from another world. Small fish shimmered like threads of silver, their movements barely disturbing the mirror-like calm. And at the pond's edge sat an old monk. He didn't speak. He didn't chant. He simply watched the pond as though it were the most beautiful scripture ever written. The peace on the monk's face was not forced. It was not practiced. It was ancient. Quiet. Unshaken. The kind of peace Kenzo had only seen on the faces of sleeping children before the world teaches them how to worry. Even his restless horse, usually twitching and shifting, grew still. She lowered her head, grazed softly, and sighed, as though the land itself had calmed her. And in that moment, something changed. Kenzo didn't sit. He didn't speak. But for the first time in years, he stopped. He stopped thinking about the next town. He stopped planning his next move. He stopped negotiating with a future that never let him rest. He simply stood, watching the monk watch the pond. And in that stillness, something inside him began to unwind. His shoulders dropped. His jaw softened. His breath came slower. It was the beginning of a different kind of wealth. Not the kind measured in coins, but in calm. Not the kind traded in markets, but felt in the quiet beating of a heart finally at ease. Peace, the Buddha said, comes from within. But sometimes, we need to see it lived out before we believe it can be ours. And in that mountain clearing, beside the mirror of a perfect pond, Kenzo caught a glimpse of the life he'd forgotten was possible. Story 2: The Sound of One Hand Clapping. Welcome back, dear traveler. As your body sinks deeper into rest and your breath becomes softer, allow your mind to drift with the next story, a story not of logic, but of awakening. There once lived a young monk named Haru, who had studied diligently in a monastery for many years. He memorized scriptures, performed his duties with devotion, and was admired by his teachers for his sharp mind. But Haru had a secret frustration: his heart felt no peace. Though he could recite ancient texts from memory, he still wrestled with restlessness. His thoughts ran in circles. His soul felt unsettled. One morning, his teacher gave him a task. Go and discover the sound of one hand clapping. At first, Haru was confused. The question made no sense. One hand alone cannot clap. He asked other monks. They offered riddles, laughter, silence. He searched the scriptures. No answer. Frustrated, he sat beneath a cherry tree and listened, day after day, for the sound of one hand clapping. But all he heard was birdsong, wind, and the quiet hum of life. Weeks passed. The question echoed in his mind until it became almost unbearable. Then one night, as the moon hung low and the wind carried a chill of autumn, Haru stood in the temple garden. He raised his hand in the moonlight, just one, and moved it slowly through the air. There was no sound. No clap. Only silence. And in that silence, something clicked. It wasn't about the sound. It was about presence. The question was a doorway, not a puzzle. It was meant to exhaust the mind, so the heart could finally awaken. In that still moment, Haru understood. Peace doesn't always arrive through answers. Sometimes, it arrives through surrender. Through letting go of the need to explain, and simply being. He sat beneath the cherry tree once more, but this time, without questions. And for the first time, the silence felt full. Let that truth settle into your bones tonight. You don't need to solve everything. You don't need to finish the race before you rest. Some questions are sacred not because they are answered, but because they open us. Breathe in. Feel the air gently enter your lungs like a blessing. Breathe out. Release the burden of needing to know. Let the silence hold you. The night is long and gentle. You are safe here. Story 3: The Empty Cup. Stillness surrounds you now. The outside world has grown quiet, and so has your mind. Let's journey together to another story, one that begins with pride and ends with peace. There was once a scholar named Daichi, renowned across the land for his brilliant mind. He had studied in the finest schools, mastered philosophy, and written books that others revered. But despite all his accomplishments, something still felt missing. A quiet emptiness echoed in his soul, a longing he could not name. He heard whispers of a wise Zen master living in the hills. A man said to hold answers not found in any book. Skeptical but curious, Daichi traveled for days to visit him. When he arrived, the master welcomed him with a warm smile and led him to a small room where tea was prepared. Daichi began talking immediately, reciting his theories, quoting scriptures, listing the ideas he had mastered. He spoke with the confidence of someone who believed he already knew most of what mattered. The master said nothing. He simply poured tea. He poured, and kept pouring. The tea rose to the brim. Then spilled over the edge. Onto the table. Then onto Daichi's robes. Startled, the scholar jumped back. Stop. The cup is full. It can't hold anymore. The master finally looked at him. Exactly, he said. You are like this cup, so full of your own opinions and knowledge, there's no room for anything new. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? Daichi sat in stunned silence. In that moment, something within him cracked open. He had come searching for wisdom, but arrived carrying too much certainty. He had mistaken knowledge for wisdom, and words for understanding. That day, Daichi didn't learn a new theory. He learned how to listen. How to receive. How to be still. And tonight, perhaps that lesson is for you too. You don't need to be an expert in anything. You don't need to have all the answers. All you need is an open heart. Let your cup empty now. Let the rushing thoughts drain away like water returning to the earth. Let yourself be open not to new information, but to peace. To stillness. To presence. Breathe in. Feel the quiet entering. Breathe out. Let go of everything that no longer serves your rest.